What's up, you guys? I'm LQ. This is the LQ Review. Thank you so much for joining me here at my YouTube channel. This is where I like to talk about all the geeky, nerdy stuff that I love to talk about, and that includes movies, TV shows, comic books, video games. If it's geeky, if it's nerdy, I love to talk about it here. Right now, I want to give you guys my review on the Netflix original movie, Fatal Affair. I talked a little bit, earlier today. I talked a little bit about Palm Springs, how it's a subgenre that we all are familiar with. Fatal Affair is another one of those. Fatal Affair is a subgenre that we are all extremely familiar with. You know, somebody who's in a happily married relationship gets tempted to stray. In some versions of the movie, they actually do stray. In other versions of the movie, they don't stray. But they come really close, and then the person that they strayed with becomes obsessive and violent, and it becomes this stalker movie where eventually it goes from maybe the marriage is at risk if this stalker creepy person lets out the secret, to eventually their lives are at risk because this person really is certifiably insane and wants to murder the family. This movie is that. This movie is that. You've seen this movie before. I promise you, if you've seen a stalker movie before, you've seen this movie. So what does this movie do different? Well, honestly, I gotta say this movie doesn't do much different. One thing that is a little different is that, that I just feel like the way that they approached the relationship, the marriage between Nia Long. Nia Long is great in this movie, by the way. Nia Long and her husband Marcus, played by Stephen Bishop. The way they approached that relationship, it felt very real. It felt very authentic. You know, lots of times you can almost understand why in these movies you can almost understand why somebody wants to stray, or why that temptation is there. And in this movie, they clearly outline why the temptation was there for her to stray, and why she almost did. She didn't, by the way. I mean, she kissed the guy, but she stopped it before it went further than that. And they kind of outline where her mind was at the time. But what I like about this is the fact that there is love clearly between her and her husband, and when she stopped what was happening, it felt very authentic. It felt very authentic the way that her relationship with her husband kind of played out after that. And I like that. And you don't always feel that authenticity in these movies. Sometimes you feel like, the husband was being kind of a jerk, and that's why she felt the need to stray. And in this one, they painted the husband as a very empathetic character, right? Somebody that you definitely felt for. On the flip side, another thing that this does different than a lot of these is, in a lot of these movies, it is the husband that strays. In fact, probably in most of them, now that I'm thinking about it, it's the husband that strays. And then you get a crazy, female who's after the husband. And that was definitely turned on its head in this movie as well, because in this you've got a crazy scorned male who is going nuts and stalking. And by the way, very effectively acted by Omar Epps. He's an actor that I've always liked. I've always felt that he's done a good job in whatever he's been in. And in this movie, playing David, he does a really good job of playing the smooth, confident individual who could seduce somebody. Playing the smooth, confident individual who can convince others that he didn't seduce somebody. And also, when he needs to dial in the scary moments, he's pretty effective at that as well. To be fair, that was his weaker acting moments in this movie. But my guess is that in real life, Omar Epps is a pretty smooth, pretty confident talking dude. So that wasn't so much of a stretch. Whereas trying to be somebody who's sinister might be a little bit more of a stretch. And not that he did a bad job at it. It just wasn't as authentic as his moments where he was trying to seduce somebody, or the moments when he was trying to manipulate somebody through his charisma. Overall, this is a movie that we've all seen before. It's a movie that it brings some different perspectives to it, especially in terms of, you know, some roles that are somewhat gender bended. I say somewhat because they've definitely had the movies where the girl is straight and the guy has been crazy, but usually it's the you know, guy is straight and the girl has comes after him. That's usually the way it plays out. So this one is slightly, somewhat gender bended, and that was really fun. That was really fun to see that take on it. But like I said, this is nothing that you haven't seen. But just because something is familiar doesn't mean that it's bad. And that's the case here. This isn't a bad movie. It's very familiar. It definitely checks all the boxes as far as this type of movie is concerned. You know exactly what's going to happen at the beginning of the movie. Once the initial setup occurs, you know what's going to happen. But that doesn't mean it's not a story that's effectively told. You know, there's lots of different stories that have been told different ways over and over and over again. This is one of those. You know, the tale of an affair gone wrong, or a near affair gone wrong. We've seen those, and we've seen those movies play out. A lot of us have seen things play out like that in real life. Who hasn't known somebody who's been involved in an affair, been involved in an affair, or, you know, at least heard some stories about the way that somebody who you know has been affected by an affair? I mean, we all have. We've all heard those stories. We've all seen affairs play out. And that's why these movies are so interesting to be told, and why people keep watching them over and over and over, even though they're the same story. Basically, it's a cautionary tale, right? It's a cautionary tale. Don't have an affair, because if you do, the person you had the affair with might be nuts. It's a cautionary tale. A lot of horror movies are cautionary tales, right? This isn't something I would call a horror movie. It's more like a suspense movie, but at the same time, it definitely has that sinister antagonist that, in the end, you know, threatens the lives of people. So yeah, this was entertaining. I enjoyed it. It didn't break any new ground. I'm gonna give it a B minus. Right? It was entertaining. I enjoyed it. It didn't break new ground. It was very familiar. But at the end of the day, it was good. It was a good movie that just didn't do anything spectacular. That's what it is. Good movie, didn't do anything spectacular. I give it a B minus. But what did you think of Fatal Affair? Let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your take on it. Make sure you subscribe to my channel. And as always, thank you so much for being here at the LQ Review, where we get to talk about all the geeky, nerdy stuff that we love to talk about. Until next time, we'll see you later.